Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Tonight we're going to be looking at the Matrix comics. This is a collection of comics that were made for the internet, and I believe for a few years that's the only way you could read them. Finally, there was enough demand that in 2003 they collected them in this graphic novel, which is the first publication of Burly Man Entertainment, which was the Wachowski brothers comic book company that unfortunately didn't last long because everything they put out was pretty damn fun. But this is an amazing collection. So much top-notch art in here. And most of the stories are really interesting too. I mean, I'm a fan of the Matrix movies. But I think even if you didn't necessarily like the Matrix movies, you might like these stories, but I don't know. It is very steeped in the mythos of the Matrix. The way the Wachowskis looked at their creation was the video game, the movies, the comics. It was all, almost like Lucasfilms with Star Wars. It's all part of the shared universe, and it all feeds on each other. So I don't know if any of these stories became canon or whatever. I think these actually, some of them came out before the first movie even came out, on the internet. So we start off with this beautiful cover by Jeff Darrow, pencils, inked by Steve Scroce, the two main art designers and storyboard artists of the Matrix films. I don't think I've ever seen Jeff Darrow inked by anyone before. It looks really nice. It does look slightly different than Jeff Darrow normal. Like, when I first looked at this cover, I was like, yeah, it looks a little different. It looks great. And it was because Steve Scroce inks it. So it's a nice size graphic novel. Not too thin, not too fat. And I have to be very careful with this book because the Burly Man Entertainment, they didn't print the books very well. And so the spine is very weak, ready to crack at any moment. So we see that Matrix design that we see in all the movies. Kind of nice how it's this nice shiny black title page. We have the indicia page and the contents. We have an introduction from Spencer Lamb. He's the guy who edited this whole project. He also contributes to some of the stories here. I'm not sure if this is from a story inside it. Even though I just read it, I can't remember. Or if this is an unknown piece of art, but it's very nice, whatever it is. So this first story is called Bits and Pieces of Information. This is written by Larry and Andy Wachowski. That was their old names. I guess the Wachowski sisters. And art by Jeff Darrow. And this is a mix of prose and comics. This is pretty funny stuff. So we're looking at these archives, and it says like text file, USA Today, baddie bot bludgeons billionaire, and we get the little story. Of course, the New York Post. If you guys are from New York, they always have the trashiest titles. Whoa, bot, whoa! Mechanical Jeeves serves master his own head. LA Times. The butler did it. So what they're all talking about is this is the first instance where a robot went against the whole, the laws of robotics, as Isaac Asimov laid down, and killed a couple of humans. So, of course, this is huge news. We get a more cogent summation from the New York Times. And strangely enough, this a renowned human rights attorney, Clarence Drummond, agrees to defend the robot. So it's going to go to trial. Of course, this is very controversial. We see some senator talking about how, this is ridiculous. It's like, I wouldn't put a vacuum cleaner on trial. This is dumb. And now we switch to image mode. So now we see this robot. He's a butler. He looks like he's kind of an old model. He's kind of beaten, a little rough around the edges. And his master, his owner, he's just a sadistic jerk. It seems like he just loves berating this robot. And now we see this guy, this pompous, fatuous ass. And he's got all these little dogs. I love how all the dogs are just peeing all over, these little chihuahuas. And he's talking to the guy from the robot company who's I guess he's trading in his butler for scrap because I guess his model is so outmoded. He's getting a new model. And of course he's just talking about it as if he's getting a new toaster or something. And the whole time the robot's just standing there. This looks like a beautiful coloring book, doesn't it? God, I love Jeff Darrow. So good. And then we also hear, in the captions, we hear the testimony from the trial. Drummond, the lawyer, is saying, okay, can you tell the jury what you were thinking at that moment? And the robot just says, I was scared. I didn't want to die. I didn't want to end. And we see what happens. I guess in his mind, his robot mind, it was self-defense. All these poor chihuahuas, look at them. They're just eviscerated and smushed. This one, it looks like he just stepped on him. And he killed that repairman guy, the guy from the robot factory. And then he killed his master, even though the master was begging for his life. Look at this. Pulls a Blade Runner on him. A Roy Batty on him. Now we go back to the transcripts, and this is more of the trial. So Drummond makes a rousing case, almost like saying that this is a civil rights thing. Robots should be considered protected. He loses the trial, though, and the court orders the droid to be terminated. And this causes a huge thing. There's like a protest march with androids and liberal sympathizers flooding the streets of Washington, D.C. Turns into a riot. And that's the end. Now, if you guys saw the Animatrix movie, I believe the first segment of that is this kind of, but then we see what happens after. It's pretty much the story. So I guess that is part of the canon then. Sweating the Small Stuff is the next story. And this is Bill Sienkwiecz. This is, unfortunately, Bill Sienkwiecz a little too much into his computer era, phase. Using lots of, obviously using the computer, I think a little too much. I should mention that the plot is by Spencer Lamb, the editor, but then the words and pictures are by Sienkwiecz. And the captions here, it's a narrator named Des. And this guy Des has a girlfriend whose idea of a normal life is running drugs for a psycho named Marlowe. So he basically asks her to stop. He's like, I just want to spend more time with you. You're so busy running drugs. And she's just like kind of mocking him. Basically just calling him a big wuss. And so then she does, though. She quits the drug thing and gets into guns. She does have more time to hang out with him. But of course, the guy really just wants her to settle down. Such a weird relationship. I would love a whole graphic novel about these two. And Des tells her about how he's been having incidences where he can see through the fabric of reality. And he sees those matrix numbers, like when he's pouring some sugar into his coffee. He's almost seeing the cracks in reality. He thinks he's going crazy. And of course, just like in many Matrix movies, he tries to explain her. He's like, yeah, I think I'm losing my mind. Everything's not made of molecules and atoms. They're made of numbers. And I feel like these guys, like these men in black, are watching me. Like they view me as a threat. I think these are photos here. Because Bill Sienkwiecz does do that. This stuff's great, though. I love Bill Sienkwiecz. And then all of a sudden, bullets start ripping through the door of their apartment. And he thinks it's them, the men in black. It turns out, though, it's just Marlowe's guys. Because when she quit the drug operation, running drugs for Marlowe, I guess it's hard to retire from the drug running business. They don't really they don't give you a gold watch. So they're coming after her. They're not coming after Dez as he first thought. God, there's so many different kinds of multimedia in here. Just something from a sketchbook, and then obviously computer, fully painted stuff. So Mia takes care of these guys, but then Dez hears a helicopter, and he knows those real guys are coming, the men in black. He also just somehow knows that they're way more formidable than any drug soldier. And so him and Mia go on the run. And he says, at least we'll be running together. When it comes to reality, you take what you can get. Next is A Life Less Empty. And this is written and drawn by Ted McKeever. I like how they have this. I always love when anthologies do this. Give you a nice little mini bio. This is some great McKeever. So this is about a woman. Once again, it's it's a very typical thing in the Matrix. There's some people in the Matrix who kind of sense something's wrong. The illusion isn't working perfectly. So she keeps talking about how, is it better to try and fail or just never try at all? She obviously has this huge regret in her life where she kind of chickened out about something. We don't really know what she's talking about. And she's tortured by it. The fact that she made this, she kind of took the easy way out. So apparently this woman was a great hacker. And now she's just kind of a shell of herself. She's kind of scared to leave her apartment. Kind of a weirdo. But at one time she was, cream of the crop, she says. And she remembers what happened. Look at this. I love this interpretation of Morpheus. It's almost like Mr. X from the 80s. He came to her with the red and the blue pill. And she chose the blue, which is the safe one. Basically staying in the Matrix. And I guess she's wearing 3D glasses for some reason. I guess just to represent the blue and the red. So this is just her remembering that fateful moment. And she chickened out. And now she regrets it forever. God, I love that. That is just some chunkiness going on. There's just this, crazy inks slashed in there. This weird, kind of sloppy cross-hatching. So this is just a little character piece. Nothing really happens in the story. It's just her thoughts. I guess this could have just been a short story. But I'm glad that we have this great Ted McKeever art. And basically just ends on a downer. She's never going to get over this. She says, my regret is eternal. That's a long time. Next we have Goliath. And this is a story by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by Bill Sienkwiecz and Gregory Ruth. Gregory Ruth, if you may remember, we looked at his Freaks of the Heartland comic about a year ago. Really great painterly artist. I don't have much by him. I have that, and I forgot he's in this. So it's really nice to see a few illustrations from him. Because as you can see, this is just a prose short story by Neil Gaiman. Pretty good story. Very odd story. Kind of basically about how the robots, the machines, pull some guy out of the Matrix and say, Earth is being attacked by aliens. I guess we sent some seeds out and some followed him back. And I guess this guy has great reflexes or something. They need him to fly a UFO they captured, almost like an Independence Day, you know, and attack the ship, this alien, you know, behemoth ship. And so we have like conflicting or contrasting Bill Sienkwiecz and Greg Ruth art. I don't like this. Too much. Bill Sienkwiecz dicking around too much on the computer, I think. Greg Ruth. Sienkwiecz. This is nice though. Look at that face. It's definitely a pretty well written story. Next we have Burning Hope. And this is a story and art by John Van Fleet. John Van Fleet's one of those kind of unsung great cartoonists. I think he's amazing, but he's only done a handful of comics. I think most of his career, I mean, he's worked outside of comics. You know, he has gallery shows. He does posters and book covers and record covers. But even when he was in comics, a lot of his time he was like an art director or something. Kind of behind the scenes, but he's so good. He's definitely in that whole, you know, Scott Hampton, John J. Muff, Kent Williams, George Pratt. He's in that whole group, you know, from the 80s, the first class of painted artists. Did I mention this? This is called Burning Hope. I can't remember. So this is just almost like a little adventure of the Matrix, very typical, where we see an agent, he's in the Matrix, and, you know, he's talking to his handler in the real world, and she's like, there's a squid, and this agent's coming. You gotta get out of there, get your phone line. Very kind of typical, but man, this art is just so nice. I mean, I guess, I wonder if some people might think, you know, oh, he's just doing just painting over photos. But I think he adds enough to it. Because there are artists who do that where it's just like, dude, you're just relying too much on photo reference. But I think he does it great. And this stuff looks beautiful to me. Here's the handler. His name's Charon. And so there's all this kind of like character interplay between these humans. It's a little vague, to be honest. I almost wish the story was longer so the characters could breathe more. So I guess that first agent gets killed. They send in another agent. I'm describing the story pretty crappy, but then again, it doesn't really have much of a story. It's that typical, if you've watched the Matrix movies, you've seen this many times before. I guess he's searching for a little girl. The Oracle said, oh, there's this little girl, her name's Hope. And she's gifted, so you got to bring her back from the Matrix. I guess some of this does look a little too photo-referenced. It almost looks like a photo that he just painted over. But it still looks nice to me. He's such a good painter. His colors are great. All these kind of earth tones. Looks really nice. So for some reason in the Matrix, this girl, I guess because she has powers, she could just change. So this is the little girl. Looks like a 40-year-old man. And he succeeds in extracting her from the Matrix. And we see her here, this cute little girl. Not much of a story. Next we have Butterfly, story and art by Dave Gibbons. This one is okay. I think the art's just really nice Dave Gibbons. This is just some primo Dave Gibbons. Butterfly by Dave Gibbons, based on concepts by the Wachowskis. And this is really based, though, on that famous old Cohen. You know, Chang Tzu had a dream. In the dream, he was a butterfly. You've probably heard this a million times. And we see it contrasting the top and the bottom half of the page. Another typical Matrix scenario. A bunch of agents trying to kill this cool-looking dude who's trying to make it to a phone. And then we see this guy, kind of like a Zen Buddhist guy, praying to his shrine. So we keep contrasting between the two. And this cool dude is having a rough time escaping all these agents. And then the Zen Buddhist guy takes out a broom. And then it looks like the agents have got the cool guy all cornered. He looks like he's done for. And all of a sudden, this butterfly distracts them. And so he jumps over this agent through the window. It turns out it's the window of this Buddhist guy. That's pretty exciting. Very, very Matrixy. Almost like the Hong Kong gun fu action going on. And so this Buddhist guy uses his broom and disarms all the agents. So he's obviously more than he seems. He's almost like you know, the Oracle. Maybe he's a program. He knows how to bend the rules of the Matrix, it looks like. But not enough, because they still get him. I forgot to continue the Cohen. The famous Cohen, you know, it's like, and then he woke up and could not recall if he was a butterfly dreaming he was a man, or a man dreaming he was a butterfly. It's this old philosophical thing. In the end, though, it says, in truth, Chang Tzu was neither man nor butterfly, and yet was both. Ponder that while you drink your ginseng tea. A sword of a different color. Ah, wow. Story and art by Troy Nixie. Colors by Dave McGregor. Some pretty nice colors, but it's Troy Nixie. This is so different than Troy Nixie's, you know, like Trout and stuff. This is almost like he's doing animation cell type art. Much simpler than he usually draws. A lot less ink on the page. So we see this guy. This is the real world. And I guess he was injured. His buddy is going to take care of him. And this guy recounts a story of how he got injured. He was on a flight over the fetus fields, you know, where they harvest the little babies. And I guess their ship crashed. Everyone died except for him. Somehow the squids, you know, those monsters that work for the Matrix, they couldn't find him. Even though he was totally, you know, busted ribs, busted arms. He crawled under this thing. And, but then he realizes, like, he can barely remember through the trauma, but he was rescued. Pulled up into this kind of shaft. And when he wakes up with a bandage on his head, he sees a squid right in front of him in the room. And of course he's like, oh shit. But then this guy comes out, this crazy old guy. He says, oh, don't worry about him. I've reprogrammed him. He's as harmless as a gnat. And he's pretty crazy. He thinks, he doesn't understand. Even though he's unplugged from the Matrix, he doesn't get it, or he's gone loco. He thinks he's fighting dragons. He thinks he's a knight of old. Even though he's crazy, he's really good at healing and taking care of him so he gets better. When the guy tries to explain the Matrix to him, he gets really angry. So he's almost like Don Quixote, you know? He's just all like, I don't want to hear that shit. They're dragons. End of story. Yeah, this really does look like it could be an animated film by Troy Nixey, which I think he's done animation. I can't remember now. I wish I could crack the spine open more to give you guys a little better look, but I can actually hear it cracking. So this crazy old man has got this big scheme. And it turns out, with his little reprogrammed squid, he put all his explosives on it. And he went to the fields. Those, you know, the fields where they harvest. And I guess he took out like 1,000 of the Matrix robots. He blew them all up. His friend says, yeah, I heard about something like that. But I had no idea you actually met the guy. Holy shit. And that's the end. Now, this is crazy. This story's called Get It, or Get It? It's a story and art by Peter Bagge. It's so weird that they got Peter Bagge in here. It just totally looks like it could be a story from Hate. So we see these three guys who have just gotten out of a viewing of The Matrix. One of them just doesn't get it. He's like, I don't know, was that supposed to be a dream? And his two friends are like, what? Are you an idiot? Are you serious? And he's like, how did they jump through the phone lines? It's like, no, they're not jumping through the phone lines. And they're trying to explain it to him, but they just give up. And it's like, oh my God, this guy's he's not getting it. So the friend leaves, and you know, there's buddies, so they're just like, I don't feel bad. I'm sure a lot of people didn't get it either. And after as he's walking out the door, we realize they touch their ears, the little implants, and they say to each other, and it's a good thing that they don't, right, Agent XRL-7? The fewer humanoids who comprehend what's really going on, the fewer we must destroy. And we realize that everyone in the diner is holding their ears, like the way agents do. And a fun story. There are no flowers in the real world, written and drawn by David Lapham of Stray Bullets fame. So we start off Arizona, somewhere near Phoenix. But this is in the Matrix. And we see this guy, there's been a horrible accident. Looks like everyone in the car with him is dead. And once again, like in many Matrix movies, I guess while they were in the Matrix, these four humans on a mission to Phoenix, the ship that they're from was attacked by squids. And they lost the battle, and the squids were killing everyone. So, of course, in the Matrix, all of his friends just start keeling over. That's how it works, because they were getting killed. So he tries to make it to the phone, and he hears an explosion. So it looks like the captain got the last of the squids, but he died. Everyone died except for him. But in the real world, this beam landed on his leg. So he's feeling this incredible pain. He hooks up with one of the guys, you know, the resistance. And of course he says, that's not your leg. This is, you know, you're in the Matrix. Just use your concentration and Just ignore it. So he actually, I guess he grew up in Phoenix. Grew up, quote unquote, in the Matrix. So he had a girlfriend, and he wants to see her again. This is kind of interesting, talking about, he's like, oh, yeah, I loved her, but it wasn't love. It was just fake. She was a computer program. And the other guy says, hey, love is love. It's in the soul. It doesn't care if your body's made of flesh or zeros and ones. Which I thought was actually quite true. If you feel it, it's love. No matter how stupid or fake it is. So he's having a great time with his girlfriend. He realizes how much he loves her. And even tells her. And then all of a sudden, I guess in the real world, that beam really just crushes his legs. I guess it was half supported by something. Now it falls onto his legs full on. And he's just, look at his legs. He's just like, ah. I haven't really commented on the Steve Lapham art. It's so like a really not very good Charles Burns. I'm not saying I don't like it, but it almost has this weird, just very inky, almost like retro quality, like it's trying to look like some old comic. Like a mainstream comic, Okay, back to the story. So his legs are all cracked. And then he says, get away from me, and he rides his motorcycle off. So these guys bully him at this diner he goes to. And he uses his crazy Matrix, Kung Fu, awesome powers. He kills one of the guys. See, I don't know why this panel to me looks like it could be from like an 80s Marvel comic, like Greg LaRocque. It's not that great. So now we see an agent goes to visit the girlfriend. And he's ends up in an alley, just racked in pain. He's almost feverish and, babbling because of the pain. But then that dude, the human agent, the human resistance guy, comes to rescue him. But then people around them are turning into agents. I think that looks pretty good. In the Matrix movies when they get all and turn into an agent. That captures it pretty well. Very simply, but it's effective. So I guess this other guy has to just keep shooting all these people turning into agents before they can actually fully turn into an agent. And then the sad ending is he runs to the girlfriend's house, and she starts turning into an agent. So he's got to shoot her. Her name's Mona. Look at that right there. It's just so, I don't know, it doesn't really look like David Lapham. Well, it kind of does, but very different than most of his stuff. And he fails to shoot the agent in time. The agent kills the protagonist. Next, we have The Miller's Tale, written and drawn by Paul Chadwick, the concrete guy. And this is just like a tale from the Matrix history. There was this guy, what's his name? Oh, I'm sorry. Here he is. His name is Joffrey. And he was one of the earliest people liberated from the Matrix. So this guy's telling the tale to these people in Zion. And he's saying that it was a lot harder back then, in the real world. And they didn't really know how to interact with the Matrix, to run missions there. It was trial and error. And of course, all they had was that nasty porridge to stave off starvation. So Joffrey, I guess, found some old movie discs. And he was fascinated by the fields of wheat in a Western. And he realized that, that's where bread's from. And he has this dream that that they have to grow wheat. they're going to find some heirloom seeds. So they go into the real world. They go above ground. Of course, it's very hazardous. And they find some old university. And they find seeds, heirloom seeds. But as they're leaving, Squid kills everyone except for Jeffrey. But Jeffrey makes it back. The first batch is unleavened, dry, coarse, burnt loaves of bread. Everyone loved it, though. It was the first thing they've eaten, other than that porridge, in years, probably. So then they actually have this whole underground growing operation using UV lights that they leach the power from the power lines. So they're actually stealing the power from the Matrix to make this bread. He gets better at it, and it just becomes this really soul-nurturing thing. But then one day the squids catch on, and they kill everyone in the wheat fields. So I guess ever since then, there's still some grain, stockpiled grain. And once a year they have a feast of bread. And we see young Morpheus eating the bread. And then those old wheat fields, surprise, surprise, I guess a mutated strain that which could resist molds and thrive in moisture started growing. So the narrator of the tale says, hopefully when we reclaim the earth, the wheat will be waiting for us. It'll be green, it'll be wetter than wheat, but we can make bread. Next one's called Artistic Freedom. And this is a story by Ryder Wyndham. He's done a lot of Dark Horse writing, for Star Wars and stuff. And beautiful art by Killian Plunkett. Once again, he's done Star Wars stuff and other things. We saw him, that Superman Red Sun, written by Mark Millar. He did the art on that. But this is so good, this art. I love Killian Plunkett. He's I think a very undersung artist. His stuff to me is just top notch. But it's not like he's a star or anything, nobody really cares. So we're in the Matrix. On a TV newscast, there's this gallery opening at the HeadNet Gallery. It's a nightmare sculptor Raven Underwell's new show. And apparently, she's made a fortune from her dark visions of humanity enslaved by mechanical monsters. But recently, it's caused this uproar. People who see her sculptures, they're having sleepless nights, they're having psychological problems. Because inadvertently, this woman is tapped in to the reality of the world. And I guess people recognize it. In the Matrix, it's just a little too real. And the whole time we see one of those little kids from the Matrix movies. The kids who could bend spoons. They're kind of like hooked into the magic of the Matrix. They can alter reality. He's watching all of this with a curious look on his face. We see the artist. She's kind of a snotty artist who's just like, if my art bothers people, that's their problem. So the little boy goes to HeadNet Gallery. And here we see, she really just totally tapped into the reality that looks just like the squids, And she says it's based on a dream she had, a very vivid dream, which we realize, as the readers and viewers of the Matrix movies, it wasn't a dream. She woke up for real. And we see her just like Keanu, she realized she's in this battery. And the real shock was when she looked outside and saw just how far it goes on. Look at this amazing drawing here. It's like Jeff Darrow detail. So then those little almost nanny robots that go around tending to the batteries in the movies. She felt it was almost like a nurturing presence. So she started making these sculptures. She actually has this affinity for these kind of scary looking robots. She almost thinks of them as caring creatures. But then the little boy, he, tweaks reality, and the robots come alive, and they just start killing people, just like squids do. It's a massacre. She runs out of the gallery. They're chasing her. God, this is just some really great chase action panels going on here. Really good stuff. And she makes it to a phone that's ringing, even though she doesn't know that, that's the escape thing. And on the other end of the line, even though the phone is cut off, it says, "It is not enough to believe what you see. You must also understand what you see." I wish I could say that like Morpheus, but I definitely don't have that kind of cool voice. And all of a sudden she wakes up. It was all a daydream. She's back in the gallery. The little boy's just looking at her. Nothing has happened. And she basically realizes that she says, "No, I've been a fool. Please forgive me." And as the little boy leaves the head net gallery, we see the letters rearranging. And, this was, I thought, really clever, too. These journalists are talking about the caviar, how it's like soup. And as the boy's leaving, we can still see their word balloon coming from them. "Got any spoons? There are no spoons." Which is a callback to the first movie, And then the little boy makes the lettering, the head net, turn into the end. I thought all around it just a neat little story and beautiful art. Next, we have Hunters and Collectors, and this is written and drawn by Gregory Ruth again. And this is kind of a homage to Moby Dick. This guy used to be a captain of a ship. I believe it was the Pequod. And I guess he was out collecting. Part of this, the humans, part of their world is, or at least part of their activity, is they go to the old world and just like collect weird old shit. Like, oh, look, it's an old telephone, or, I don't know, a Cosmo magazine. Just little pieces, like archaeologists. And he's out there with this woman, this younger woman, and he's obsessed with getting the squid that killed his ship, right? There you go, the Pequod. And, he kind of lies to her and just says, "Oh, we're searching for antiquities." But he's really he wants to find the squid, which is suicide. She tells him, it's like, that's crazy. Nobody's ever fought a squid and lived. So he feels such guilt about bringing the Pequod out there and getting his whole crew killed. And they actually find themselves at the ruins of the Pequod. They're at the same spot where it crashed. And the Sentinel, that's what the squids are called, Sentinels, they come out. He tells her name's Nova. He says, "Nova, get behind the wall." Because basically she realizes this later. He wants her to be able to survive and make it back and tell the story of how he confronted a Sentinel all by himself. Basically, it's suicide. He's just got a spear. I mean, it's like a whale spear, Harpoon, I meant to say. And he's actually doing pretty good. He's actually he's thought it through for months. Every move he's going to make, he's practiced. And it looks like he just might do it. God, this is some beautiful art. I really like Greg Ruth. But of course, it's suicide at the end of the day, and he gets killed. So then she comes out from behind the wall instead of running. She doesn't quite know why. And she says, "Well, no more running." She says, "I could have just let it struck me right then and there. My death would have been quicker." But I guess she was inspired by seeing that guy. And she's doing really good. God, this is just beautiful to me. This looks so nice. Using the manga speed lines, but beautifully painted. Look at that. And she actually succeeds. She makes it malfunction. And then at the end, in this narration, she's been the narrator the whole time. She basically says, I don't want the dream to die. I'll tell everyone that he succeeded. Flint, that was his name. She'll tell everyone Flint killed the creature. And she finds a big cache of books, which is a great treasure in this world, you can imagine. Of course, one of them is Moby Dick. And even though it'll go against everyone's principles, she rips a page out for Flint's grave marker. And it's the last page of Moby Dick. Oh, there's just an ad for the Art of the Matrix Reloaded Revolutions, which is nice to have a full-page sketch from, I imagine that's either Darrow or Scroce. Looks a little more like Scroce to me. And we have an ad for the upcoming Burly Man books. And a nice back cover by Care Andrews. I kind of like this crazy weird animation style. So there you go, guys, the Matrix comics. This is the first of 2 volumes, and next video, which hopefully will come out tomorrow or the next day, I'll be looking at that. So it's a twofer of the Matrix. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that the lineup is just as stellar as this one. So this is one of those books that, like, kind of nobody cares about. I think because when it came out, it was like, oh, those are all free on the internet. But it's a killer anthology. It's really top-notch and highly recommended. And I have a feeling you could find this cheap. I think nobody cared about this and bought it. But, and also after the Matrix 2 and 3 fizzled out, a lot of people were just like, fuck the Matrix. I am not one of those people. I do think that the second and third movie are not nearly as good as the first one, but I still think they're pretty damn interesting. But that's enough of that. We're here to talk about comics, not movies. So I hope you guys enjoyed looking at this with me, and I hope to see you next time here at the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.